is full. Okay, good. Um, so, so was there proof of meeting? Joyce? Joyce? Was
Oh,
there?
I apologize. The meeting was mailed out via email on the 12th and with the 14-day notice.
Okay. So we have on the agenda the approval of the board meeting minutes of 6/27/25. Board, do you have any additions or corrections to those meeting minutes? If not, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes. Do I have a second?
Dana Carson. Oh, sorry.
Second, Brett Hansen.
And all those in favor say aye. Adam first.
Adam Lashinsky, aye.
Brett Hansen, aye.
Dana Carson, aye.
Steve. And,
Sorry, Steve Dalton, aye.
and I. So the minutes of that board meeting are approved. There is no old business. We're going to go right into the new business at this point. We have a number of really excellent questions that came. Anne Marie, wow, I don't know how to thank you for your thoughtfulness. On the other hand, it's a lot for us to try to address. Do you want to focus just a few of your questions that you think that you didn't get an immediate answer to, and then Steve, maybe you and I can together answer some of her questions. But obviously, if we did all of your questions, Anne Marie, and thank you for that, we wouldn't have a lot of time here. So go ahead, please.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Just a few things. I don't know how much time people have had to look at the proposed budget that was mailed out 2 weeks ago compared to the updated document that went out yesterday. But thank you to Steve for making a few of the suggested updates that I had sent. Those were related around making sure that there was a late fee income in concert with prior years, increasing the barbecue supply budget slightly, and correcting some column positions of some data. So that said, my main concern was, well, first of all, I want to say that the waterfall reserve budget, which will start at 0 for the fiscal year 26, is spot on. You know, I mean, I think we do need, as a community, a total reset. And then let's get the reserve study finalized. I understand that there was a preliminary reserve study, but that is not finalized, so it's not ready for distribution. But let's get that done, and that'll set the way forward for growing our reserves. I mean, we know that there shouldn't be any big ticket items in the near future because of all the work that we're doing with the hurricane restoration efforts. So that's fine. There are a few things in the waterfall that I questioned as far as disclosure. The most obvious is, well, where are all the hurricane projects? They're not listed in our long range, plan. And the reason is it's not considered part of our reserve going forward. It's really part of our hurricane effort to restore the community. And I asked, quite frankly, well, okay, that's fine. Well, where is that list, right? Can we have a list of where we're at with our hurricane funding, how much we have in the funds, and how much we still have left to spend? And there isn't yet a distributable document that kind of has that information, so we don't have that today. But in short, every single month that we get our financials, the hurricane fund is a separate account in our asset information, and that's roughly $5 million. And our hurricane spend is disclosed in our expenses and our operating expenses as a separate line item, so that both of those pieces of information are, we know money's in and we know money's out. And if we're watching on a month-to-month basis, we'll be able to see if we're starting to dwindle down on our available funds, and yet we see a whole bunch of projects still left to do. So it's kind of a check and balance there that personally, while I'd love to have a piece of paper that said we have 9 more projects and these are what they are and these are what our estimated costs are, in lieu of that, we have some measures to, to be sure that the board is accountable and that work is progressing, and we're all not gonna, get dinged with a ungodly special assessment that we weren't foreseeing. So
Let me address just a couple of things
Yeah.
there. And I'm probably the one who maintains that particular list that you're asking about. And yeah, the big projects would be of no great surprise to you all. We have the ownership has approved putting in pavers, so we've been Dana worked with a couple of companies to get estimates, and Accurate Pavers looks like they're going to be the best choice for us. Literally got an updated proposal from them yesterday, which I'll be sharing with the board later today. And that project is obviously right around 900 something, a million, close to $1 million, whatever. That's a big project. The second one is ongoing, has been started now, which is Carbon 6 in the pool house, and you all know about that one. And then custom paint and restoration, you all guys all know about that one as well. We had to do something with our backflow preventer, which is that proposal's been accepted, and they're to be starting. I don't know what the status date of that is, but that's with Total Fire. We've got some work with General Elevator. We're putting in a small section, a 30-foot section on the north part of our property line by the tennis courts for a seawall. That's with Greg Orick. We got some things with hands-free that are pending, including the gate, some of the work around the gate. And we got landscape work that you all know about or have seen in progress. And then in this list, we've got some furniture that we'll be purchasing as part of filling out our pool deck and our patios. Those are the projects that are really on the list. Now, I could probably create a document of that, but it's a living document. So today it looks like this, and tomorrow it looks like that. And I don't have the time and energy to be updating it frequently, but I understand the desire to know more about it. But that's it right there in a nutshell. And just going back a minute on the reserve budget. Yes, Steve and I and Dana started to work with the company that was doing the reserve budget. Their name is Milestone, and the first part of it was putting together kind of a list of all of the things that we thought should be included, and then through different revisions, we've recognized there are some things in there that really should have been in operating, and so we've had to go through a few more revisions on that. And I literally got that, I think, 2 days ago, Steve. I don't know if I think they sent it to you as well, didn't they, Steve? And that was kind of the worksheet behind the reserve study, which then gets imported into their program, which then tells us how much money we need to put in each and every year. So I'm anticipating that should be available to all of us fairly soon. But as you've pointed out, the reserve study, when you look forward, and Steve and I and Dana have looked at this, I mean, in the next, decade, there just aren't that many projects that need to be funded. But if we want to fund things, so we've got money in the bank, we will have to, obviously put money each and every year. Having said that, however, we're fortunate enough that we believe that at the end of the hurricane restoration, we'll have some money to be able to carry forward into that reserve. Steve, you want to add anything to that?
Just a very thank you, Harlan, and thanks to Anne Marie, who's really been super helpful. When I went through the first draft on this, we were sort of at the deadline and trying to sort of get everything in, and there were a lot of revisions, and Anne Marie has spent 2 rounds and a lot of time helping get that tightened up. And I answered her questions, Harlan, to the email, and then she and I had a discussion. So to that extent, Anne Marie's been very helpful through this process. Thank you, Anne Marie.
Thank you.
Secondly,
Thank you both.
yeah, thank you. Secondly, when I first came on as treasurer, and I just want to mention this briefly, is that one of the things that I was scratching my head about is the fact that we've just gone through the roof project and we did a special assessment for it. And I said, I'm not sure why, as an entity or an organization, we don't set aside money to cover these big expenditures. We just historically have never done that. And I'm like, well, it's not a very, sort of responsible way. And that is to say, well, if I've got a $2 million roof and it lasts 20 years, then I really need to be setting, as you would in your family budget, $100,000 a year. So at the end of 2 years or 20 years, I've got enough money so I don't have to come back and do a special assessment because nobody likes them. Okay. That's the least of our, reasons to do that. So basically what happened is the state legislature came through and said, okay, you guys are going to have to do this big milestone study and reserve study, and you're literally going to start funding your reserve budget like grown adults, which is, I think, terrific. So here's what you're going to see, and this is as an overview. When we finish that study that Harlan and Dana and I have worked on, we're going to literally set aside money. If the parking lot's going to last useful life of 30 years, we're going to set some money aside every single year, and we're going to build up our reserve fund. So that's sort of what we're working on right now, is a responsible budget that has enough money in reserve to take care of problems. I'm not saying we'll never have another special assessment, but it's a very responsible way to handle your finances, and notwithstanding the fact that it's been required by the state legislature. So that's what you're going to see going forward. You'll probably see certainly some increases. We don't know what that increase is yet, so I sort of forecasted some numbers, but we're going to need to get that reserve fund set up so that it matches the useful life of our assets. Harlan, back to you.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Steve. Anne Marie, I kind of cut you short. Was there anything else, a major point that you wanted to bring up?
I would say the other thing that kind of stands out as new, not new as in like we hadn't been doing it priorly, but I wanted maybe just to share that our in our expenses under salary and benefits, it looks like on a go forward basis, we have a proper maintenance contract and housekeeping contract. And I know over the last, since the hurricane, that was like all up in arms. And I think that a lot of the work that Guido and team, and kudos to that team because they work really hard, but I think a lot of their charges have been previously in our hurricane expenses and not in maintenance capacity. So I just wanted to point that out for owners, that is why they might see the salary and budgets have such a big increase.
Thank you. And remember, when we were with FSR, all of it was kind of lumped together, so it was a little hard for us to understand what we were actually doing. And you're absolutely right. As we evolved and got out of the hurricane restoration phase, we began to have Guido and team do some of our housekeeping in addition to restoration, in addition to maintenance. So it was kind of a muddy thing going on there for a while. And now what we've done is we've said, Guido and team are going to be focusing 100% on maintenance, and well, still some hurricane restoration. And it was really Joyce's idea to spin off and get a contract for housekeeping. Joyce, you want to just comment on that a little bit, because I'm really happy that we've done that. But go ahead, please. You can't hear you. Can't hear you.
There we go.
Okay.
Yeah, so we together have researched and looked for some various housekeeping companies. And I am confident that when everyone returns, they will see a big improvement on the overall appearance of and cleanliness of the community, because our person that is here now is solely focused on just doing the housekeeping, and they're doing a very good job. And as Harlan had and Anne Marie had mentioned, it was kind of all muddled together, and it was very difficult to have accountability and so forth. So it's working out very well. I'm sure you'll be very happy when you return.
Good, good, good. Excellent. Anne Marie, thank you for your comments. Hopefully the rest of the other items were addressed adequately by Steve. I
They
hope.
were.
Okay, good. And incorporated as needed into the documents that we now have in front of us.
Yeah, I think there's just an addition, a thing that to double check on the waterfall, but that's it.
Okay, very good. So Mark Mumley, I got an email from you yesterday at 11. Hey, buddy, I'm sorry I didn't see it until this morning. Yesterday was a big day for us as we closed on our home. Mark, as I'm looking at this, you've got some specific questions, maybe the the irrigation piece. Steve, you want to address that because we did talk about that in our original plan. So you say we've got 2 accounts for this, but no expense. Steve, did you want to respond to that?
Yeah, so break this down into 2 pieces, Mark. It's a good question, and it's different than what we've done before. So basically, Landscape Florida is covering, we've got, well, in essence, 2. We've got the first portion, which is Landscape Florida, is providing all the labor, materials, repairs, etc. So that's going to be picked up under a general maintenance contract with them, that they'll be doing a lot of different things for us. And we think we'll have better accountability because we're going to have one party as opposed to multiple parties, multiple vendors, one that are accountable. It's a bigger account for them. We'll get more focus and attention. Secondly, we went back over the utilities. So you've got the sewer, and then you've got the water, and it got a little convoluted. So we just went back, took our average bills since we've been watering, and estimated those costs. So labor is going to be shown under really the Landscape Florida contract, and then the water and sewer usage has been adjusted properly to reflect what we've been paying of late. That's how we set the budget. Does that answer your question, Mark?
Did we lose you, Mark? No,
And
you're there.
hopefully I've gotten it straightened out in our courtyard that most 99% of our water usage in our courtyard and the swimming pool will be coming from our irrigation line, which doesn't have a sewage charge, as you know.
Right.
And that's the only thing I wanted to personally monitor was the one bill for the irrigation. That's really what I was concerned about. And I'd asked you in the past and try to work with Joyce, and this can happen in the future, that she should see these bills and maybe even sign off on them. Irrigation water, water and sewage bill. I know the cable bill's pretty much set for, but our pool bill, as far as the maintenance on that item and stuff like that, that's the only way I can personally see if there's a misstep there. In other words, all of a sudden we get a huge irrigation bill, might have a leak, not knowing. So that's the only reason I wanted to know about that.
So Steve, is there a way to or Joyce, is there a way that we can spin that off as a separate bill?
I'm confident that if I work with Shauna, we can do that. Generally, as a matter of practice, all the utility bills are usually set up on auto pay so that there's never any interruption of service. However, she could send me copies of the bill so we can see that, as Mark has mentioned, and monitor it.
Good. Let's see if we can do that, because I think his concern is legitimate. I mean, the amount of money that we're spending on water is not any different. So from a budget standpoint, it doesn't really matter. But from the monitoring standpoint, it certainly does. Thank you, Mark. You also brought up staff bonus. Your point is, I thought we had no staff and eliminated bonuses. That's an interesting point. Yes, that's correct. We don't have any employees per se. Um, so I guess, I mean, it's a little awkward to discuss that comment, that point in front of Joyce, but you know, I guess when we approached this, we thought that it would be a way to while Joyce and Guido and our front desk team are not employees. They're certainly a critical part of our team, and unlike a lot of subcontractors who, you know, kind of come and go, are very different. So let's take that comment under advisement, and we can talk
No
about.
problem.
Yep, thank you, Mark, for even bringing it up, though. Appreciate it. You did ask about guardhouse security services. This line item that is in the budget, so that account, if you will, that's related to that uh, concept was for people. Now, yes, we do need to have money in for the virtual guard monitoring. And I thought that Steve, don't we have that listed here under hands-free? Or
It is. It's under the hands-free contract, and it's all picked up in because they're handling all of our lock systems and software integration for all the different touch points that we lock down. So that, I believe, is all being picked up under that contract, and we got that into the estimate.
Yeah, I think it's here in as a line item only from a historical perspective because it was we did hire people in 23 and 24 for that service.
The point about pool maintenance, there, to my knowledge, you're right, Mark. I'm not aware of a heater or a monitoring contract. I think it's a descriptive error there rather than anything else.
That's what I was thinking there, Harlan. I
Yeah.
wasn't sure.
Yep. So
You know,
maybe,
sometimes these companies sneak things in, and I'm just kind of double checking. You know.
yeah, of course. No, it's a good point. I don't know if we can change that as a descriptive. I don't see why we couldn't, so that it's clear to
That's fine.
for the future. Steve, if it's possible, maybe we change the descriptor on that. The next one is the pool furniture. I have that in the hurricane recovery expenses.
Okay. Okay.
And that's why it's not in the not in the budget as an operating expense. It would need to be the operating budget next year, not 26, but 27, because
Okay.
that the future board will of course be replacing items as they become damaged or whatever. Barbecue supplies, I think we were using just an estimate from the previous, but maybe we should increase that a bit. You suggested we double it. Steve,
Steve adjusted that.
okay.
He adjusted that in the new one. It went from 1,200 to 2,500.
Perfect. Okay. I think those are your questions, unless there was
Yes,
something.
thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. And then Cheryl, Cheryl, are you on the call?
Yes, I'm here.
So again, I saw your email yesterday afternoon. I didn't see it till, I'm sorry. It came in yesterday afternoon. I didn't see it till today. Your comment is about that you'd like to see the reserve budget study that supports the reserve projects by the year. And yes, you will definitely get a copy of that. We don't even have a current copy. Again, we're still working behind the scenes on that whole process. But as of yesterday afternoon, I got a updated, Steve and I got an update from the company that's working on that, and I'm anticipating we'll have something that we'll be able to share with you, with the entire organization. So hopefully that answers that question.
Yeah, no, it does. Thank you. I was just taking a look on kind of what was the source of information in our waterfall, and absent a reserve study, from my perspective, those numbers are probably just placeholders until we get the reserve study.
Yeah, I would say so. At this moment, we're trying to do our best based on what we kind of estimate with their behind the scenes input. They're the ones that are determining, obviously, life expectancy of any particular item. We don't have any real insight into that, We
Mhm.
can tell them what it cost us to fix something. And if it's a complete replacement or in over time, or it will be done in phases. So there are pieces that they that they need to understand about our organization. And that's what kind of brought us back and forth and has taken more time than I would like, but that's true with pretty much everything in this process. So, and I
So
think,
do you
sorry.
expect that we'll have that report, say, by the end of the calendar year, or do you think it'll
Oh,
roll into
I would,
next year?
his comment yesterday, I don't word for word, I think here's his email. He says, please review the template and then we'll upload it. Look forward to whatever. He doesn't give
Okay.
us a timeline, but you know, we've been pushing him obviously. So yes, I would anticipate it would be here within, I hate to say, right? Because I
Yeah.
can't control what happens.
Yes,
So we're gonna get it as soon as we can. That's
great.
what, yep. Thank you
Thank
for the
you.
question though. Let's see, Steve, I think those are the only questions that I saw coming through. Brad Segro, or Brad, are you on the call? Brad, are you on the call? So we mentioned the beach walkovers. So yeah, we went back and forth on this and so on and so on. And eventually we do have now a engineered proposal, design is the right word, that has been submitted, and now it's got to go through all the appropriate permitting processes. Adam, do you mind commenting on that, the walkovers and the process, etc.?
Certainly. Uh, we had our engineers go through this. They had to involve our architects from landscape to comply with Florida. They got the structural engineers involved, and they came up with a design which probably is as sturdy of a design as possible while providing convenience and a direct path to the beach from both sides. So the idea was to legally replicate what we had, and we got that accomplished. Bids are coming in, so we can see how much it would cost to do, and we'll pick the best vendor. Obviously, the chokehold, as most of the time, is the beautiful state of Florida. Uh, DEP is sitting on our permits, and if you ask about them, can we have them approved? They give themselves 90 days to simply say, we're working on it. And after 90 days, you know, they could approve it or they could ask for revisions. Once that's done, we got to make sure that Bonita blesses us too, gives us a regular building permit and the LDO permit. So for now, regrettably, all of us are going to be inconvenienced by walking to the north side, but everything has been resolved.
Thanks, Adam. So those are the only questions that came through by email, unless I've missed somebody, and hopefully not. And Steve, or did any of the board receive any verbal questions from people that they want to share, or have those people share at this meeting?
Not to my knowledge, Harlan. I sent out a revised copy to the board just before the meeting started. So if we vote to adopt, that'll be the document upon which we're basing our vote. So it just had a little bit of cleanup on the reserves, or excuse me, the waterfall. Now, for everybody, there was some issues with some of the math on the original draft budget. And then we sent out a revision, I believe, last night. So that should be in your inbox. If you want me to just work through this, Harlan, is that your preference? Okay.
Yeah.
So why don't we start with the question that everybody always wants to know first, all of the line item breakdowns everybody's curious about, but really at the end of the day, everybody wants to know what their quarterly assessments are going to be. So let's start there. For example, and I think the backdrop here is everybody knows we've seen really an average inflation rate over the last 4 years of probably about 6%. In building materials, we've probably seen that in South Florida more like 8 or 9%. Our labor costs are significantly higher than what they were. There's a whole host of economic reasons for that, and we won't drill down into that. But bottom line is everything's a lot more expensive than it was. And all those services that 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 we bring to bear to keep everything going, they've all gone up. It's been really shocking to see the rebuild cost from what we originally thought it was going to be. Thank goodness we got great insurance reimbursement. We're going to be fine. But bottom line is all of our costs are significantly higher, not the least of which is insurance that I think in 21 was probably around 400,000 to 500,000, and it's 1.2 million. Okay. So what that means is approximately $700,000, which is about $3,500 for each of you annually. That is just our increase in insurance. But the board's worked very hard to minimize costs in other areas. We really also think that from a maintenance perspective, the fact that virtually everything, by the time custom paint and restoration gets done, virtually all of our wear components, our pool equipment, a brand new pool house, a completely renovated building structure, including structural repairs, back balconies. We're going to be a building that is, for all intents and purposes, almost as good as not better than a new building. Okay, so proven systems, et cetera. We made really significant improvements to the electrical protection, the submarine doors on all of our elevator rooms and our electrical rooms. All of those monies got spent out of insurance funds to make sure that, and plus the retaining wall up front, to make sure that we're lowering our maintenance cost, so the R&M category can go down. But bottom line is, I think we've had very, very modest. This is my fourth budget, and our assessments are up, I believe, about 12% over a 4-year time frame. So we've been running an adjusted increase. The first 2 years I ran these budgets, we didn't even increase the assessments. This year, and the perspective would be, let's say, on a 1-bedroom, where in 25 we were at just a few dollars under 1,800. Now we're going to be at 1,918, so you're roughly $126 a quarter. A 3-bedroom, for example, last year the assessment, this is operating in reserve, was around 2,868. We're going to go to 3,070. So roughly you're up about $200 on the quarter, which, we did everything we could. We had huge increases in insurance, and I think that's a relatively modest increase given the fact that we've had raging inflation, and everything that we do now costs a lot more money, especially labor components. So that's the overall, is that if you're on a 3-bedroom, you're going to be looking at about $3,070 a quarter. On a 2-bedroom, you'll be at somewhere around 2,859. And we haven't finalized these numbers, but they're close. And a 1-bedroom is going to be at 1,918. Hopefully we'll get 126 sold. We'll get them on the roll for billing. And so because we're just now finalizing these, you're going to see an invoice predicated on the vote today. We adopt the budget. Davis will probably be doing the invoicing, I'm guessing, Monday. And so we're obviously going to give everybody a grace period, because you will not have received the bill until a day or two before it's due. So we're going to extend a grace period approximately 2.5 weeks. So, however, please, when you get your Q1, which is really your 10/1 invoice, please pay that right away if you could. So let's dive in, unless anybody's got any questions about that.
I just have just to summarize, I think, yeah, you're right. On a year-over-year basis from 2025 fiscal year to what's proposed for 26, it's the HOA contribution is overall a 7% increase. However, because of the way that we managed the payments in 2025, the actual quarterly amount from what we've been paying January, April, and July of 25 going into fiscal year 23 represents a 5.3% increase.
Right. Thank you, Anne Marie. Okay, so let's just dive into the top of the budget. If everybody or anybody has that document in front of them, we took our overall top line operating assessment budget from $1,725,000 to $1,825,000, and we bumped the reserve contribution in anticipation of the milestone reserve study coming back and requiring additional payments into that to start funding. Harlan and I discussed it, kicked it back and forth, and decided to increase it by roughly $50,000 overall for the budget there. We are, by the way, not immediately, but we are going to be assessing late income. We've got some people that are a bit behind through the hurricane process and the recovery. I consciously made the decision not to charge people late interest, but we are going to start to assess that once again, exact same way that we did under the prior administration when FSR was managing that. We're anticipating in line 18 approximately $150,000 of reserve interest. That helps the budget, and interest income in the operating account, the lockbox of about $5. One thing of note is you'll see in there that we've got miscellaneous income for the parking space auction. As you know from the last material alteration vote, we are going to auction off 2 underground parking spaces. We estimated that to be approximately $40,000. So that as a line item, we didn't really have a cost basis on that particular item. So I booked the entire 40,000 into income. It will be cash flow. I'm not handling the sale of 126 in the same way. That is really more of a capital contribution, a reserve asset that we all owe, but these weren't specifically carved out. So basically I'm counting the money, anticipating hopefully $20,000 per parking space that'll come in as revenue and offset our bills. So that brings us to, with the 237,000 of interest income and all the random items, guest fees, etc. And I tried to be conservative on these. Quite frankly, since we'll be fully back up and running, I would anticipate that our guest fees are probably going to be significantly more, but I'd rather undershoot on the budget rather than overshoot. Brings us total gross revenue of $2,062,000, counting that's total revenue of 2.512, which includes reserve and operating. Anticipating a vote, estimating a cash carryover of approximately 390,000. We'll get that number soon. We are currently running at a little bit of a budget deficit, going all the way down to the very bottom. We're running, I'm anticipating, a $175,000 net deficit. However, we are allowed to use our cash carryover to offset against our losses. And I don't see really a reason to build up a huge amount of cash reserves. It's coming out of your pocket. And my suspicion is you'd rather keep it in your checking account than in ours. So that amount will serve as an offset, and I'm perfectly comfortable with this budget going forward. Moving down into administration, you'll just see our various and sundry costs. We would anticipate now that our cost at Davis, we're doing a lot less checks for rebuild. During that process, when we were rebuilding, they were cutting a lot of checks. Harlan was reviewing a lot of invoices. I was reviewing a lot of invoices. Every one of those is first looked at by Joyce, checked by Harlan, approved by Harlan. They come to me. I approve them. They get uploaded into the portal, and then they have 2 sets of eyeballs at Davis that approve those. So it's a very sort of labor-intensive process. And because the rebuild process is much further along than what it is, and we don't have 80 different projects running concurrently, we would anticipate our costs being lower. Legal fees, nothing really of note. We would anticipate that being lower. There were a lot of legal issues through the rebuilding process. So you'll see really a relative reduction from last year. As we talked about insurance, we're looking at a reduction from last year, but a very significant increase over the last 4 years, where we're at 1181. As you'll remember, we as a board decided to sort of have the entire complex go up to Miami-Dade standards. So many owners, all owners who needed to, updated their doors and windows, all the enclosures to Miami-Dade hurricane standards. That was one piece. that was keeping us from negotiating better wind coverage rates. Okay, it doesn't really affect our flood coverage. We tried to appeal back to FEMA, and it really doesn't make any difference to them. Wind, on the other hand, we're on the private market in wind, and so that's where you've seen these huge increases. Ironically, these are the same people we had to fight for solid 3 years, and we just settled with them about a month and change ago. So they are the entity, the private market on insurance are the ones that just really amazingly increased our insurance premiums, and they're the ones that really are giving us the hardest time on collecting the premiums. So here's what we hope for. We hope that because we were A, not Miami-Dade, and B, not substantially complete, which is the insurance term for it, we couldn't get to Citizens, which is sort of the state engaged sponsor of wind coverage. Okay, so we hope to be able to get there, because last year they just told us again, sorry, you're not substantially complete. Hopefully, and that will start coming up in March. I would anticipate that the work that we've done will be considered to be substantially complete. And a corresponding decrease in insurance premiums, I am hopeful. We have no idea where that's going to go. Really, our utilities, relatively stable over the last 4 years. We're anticipating and budgeting for $362,000. That's a smaller increase in cable TV. You see that the prior 2 years, obviously because we weren't there, we weren't paying for hotwire internet and cable TV. So now we're back up to full usage, and that number is 203. Then we've got salary and benefits. Obviously, Joyce's company is an outside contractor. We're paying them. Maintenance contract is going to be Weedo and Company. And then we've got a third contract for the housekeeping. Those dollars are actually, you can see savings there over the last 4 years, where in 2023, we're spending $404,000. This year, only $363,000. And I think the work is going to be so much better than what it was. Landscape related, again, if you haven't had an opportunity to be there, landscape looks fantastic, and we're going to be maintaining that. And again, as I mentioned, landscape, grounds, maintenance, irrigation, lawn mowing, all the fertilization is all going to fall under one contract with Landscape Florida, and they will have one accountable entity that we'll be dealing with on that for lawn maintenance and grounds. Down to R&M. R&M is always sort of a catch-all, and as I referenced earlier, since we're essentially virtually all of our working componentry is brand new, you're seeing significantly less cost that I've allocated for repair and maintenance, because a lot of this equipment is now under warranty. For example, elevators under warranty, the pool equipment under warranty. So all of those things, we were able to squeeze a budgeted savings out. That brings us down to an operating loss of $175,000, made up for with our $390,000 of cash carryover, bringing us to a year-end balance predicted at the end of next year of roughly $215,000. So I think that's basically it. The board has tried really hard to maintain cost. I think we've done a really good job of that. Like I said, 12% increase over a 4-year time frame, I think is excellent. We've worked very hard to make sure that we're spending your money in a manner that is frugal, but also is keeping the place maintained. When we step up and execute on the reserve budget plan, I think we'll be maintaining our assets, and that's just smart fiscally. I really like where we're at. Questions? Wow. Nobody's got a
question. Thank you very much, Steve. Appreciate it. Board, please jump in. Do you have questions or comments or accolades or whatever? I mean, let's hear from the board. Okay, guys, come on. Anybody?
Yeah, this is Cheryl Newell. I would like to compliment this board for the last several years worth of working through these budgets and our cash and so forth. It's been an enormous job, and I think they've really done a very good job, given the circumstances that were thrown at them that nobody ever expected. So thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. Appreciate that very much. Anybody else? Questions or comments about line items or concepts or anything else?
This new backflow preventer for the fire suppression.
Mark, you're breaking up a bit here. Not sure what's going on with it. Can you try again? Mark? We're not hearing you very well. But please
His
jump in.
question was about the backflow for the fire suppression.
Okay, got it. Maybe I didn't hear it well. Joyce, we have a signed contract. And when do you know when they're planning to start that work?
Let me give you an update on that. Actually, just this week, we do have a signed contract. We are just now initiating paying the 50%. However, the plans for the backflow have been working in the background, and they I believe have been submitted. I know that Mr. Skaggs, who is the engineer that is working on that on behalf of Total Fire, had to request the schematics and the drawings for that pump room, which I did not have available to me. As far as what comes into the pump room, what goes out, what is where, we didn't have, I did not have, I requested it from Bart. But he had to request that, and that's where we are with that. So I am anticipating probably within the next month and a half, they will have that done, and it won't take very long. Once they start breaking ground on it, it should only be about a 2-week job, maybe, if that.
My question was, where's the money coming from, Harlan?
I'm taking it out of the hurricane recovery expenses.
Okay, that's it. That's all I wanted to know.
And for those people that didn't know about this, the short of it was, we get someone from the city of Bonita Springs comes to us, and I'm sorry to have to tell you this, but you're going to have to do the following. And what he was telling us was that as our water is coming in, there's the domestic water that we're using for our drinking, etc. And then there's water that supplies our fire suppression pumps and all those standpipes that are in the different buildings. And the concern was that water that's kind of stagnated, if you will, in those fire suppression lines that are vertical could interact or contaminate the domestic water lines. Therefore, they wanted to have a separate flow, if you will, to prevent the backflow of that water into our domestic water. And so, well, while it made sense to us, it's like, really? You're telling us that now? I mean, we've spent so much money putting in new pumps and new lines and all this stuff, and now you want us to change all that? Yep. And you've got, whatever it was, 90 days to do it. Anyway, short of it was, Joyce went out and got different quotes, and I think with Mark's help as well. And thank you both for that. And we ended up going with a company called Total Fire for $62,636. Really kind of a kick in the butt, but that's the way it's going to play itself out. And what we've learned through this process is that Total Fire may become a better preferred provider of services than
I think so too.
company that we have, who is Steve and I are very frustrated with with the service that's being provided. So at any rate, that'll be one of the positive things. And of course, you can see the logic behind what they're asking us to do. But that's the short of it, not to get too much more into it. Thank you for that, Mark.
Thank you.
Harlan, related to that, on the waterfall is the fire suppression standpipes to be relined or something. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, no, not relined. So as you recall, when you were on the board, you all replaced one of the lines there that was leaking in the A building. And then there was a second line when I got on the board, when this board, there was a second line, vertical line in the A building that started to leak. And so we had them replace that line, and then of course change the location of both of the one that you all had put in. So we do have a number on what that cost us at that time. So that means, so each one of the buildings has two of those vertical lines. So that means that there are 8 left, right? So we've gone to our consultants on this and said, should we just replace them? And the answer is no, don't bother with it until you need to do it. It's unlikely that it would be an emergency. And yet it seems prudent to somehow have maybe a little foresight into that. So it's not like we necessarily are proposing that we would replace 2 of those lines this coming year. We wanted to be sure that we at least have been a little thoughtful about it. And that's why we put the number in the reserve.
Okay, thank you for explaining that. And then also, I guess, you know, Steve's right that, you know, the majority of our big ticket items around the community have been restored or replaced, except for our vertical plumbing pipes, which, as we all know, we occasionally have those issues. And it looks like you're, you know, again, maybe the same line, you're trying to put some monies aside year over year for dealing with those events when they occur.
That's exactly right. So we don't know. So Dana, thank you very much. And Dana could speak a little bit to this, but I asked her to take a look at what data we had to confirm how many of those vertical sewer lines have been replaced, to the best of our knowledge. And I'll ask her to speak about it in just a moment. But the short of it was, we have a rough estimate of how many of those are kind of, I'll say, original lined, because as you remember, when Robin Petty was on the board, we lined those at a cost of 200 and some $1,000. But of course, and they haven't really been leaking until just recently, where some of the connectors, the laterals go into the verticals, where we're starting to see some of those leaks occurring. So this last year, Joyce and I have had to struggle with some of the owners as well as some of the vendors on that. So we have a rough idea on what it costs us to replace that vertical segment between for an individual floor. And it's somewhere in the neighborhood of $1,250 to $1,500 for the BBC's responsibility, which is only the vertical piece. So it's kind of an estimate of how many we might have to replace this coming year. So yes, that's correct. Dana, do you want to make a comment upon the study you did? Because it really is very helpful and probably something that you should have been doing for decades. But
Sure, sure. I got a disc or of all the pictures for the restorations that had occurred from approximately 2020. I believe it was 2020 or it was 2022. Anyway, I created a database, and I believe Anne Marie has uploaded that to the website. And I went through January of 2025. And so I will, when I return, I will ask to see what else has been done this year and continue to update it. And then I guess we'll, you know, the next board will have to make a decision whether they want to push forcing a stack to be complete on those pipes.
yeah, thanks, Dan. And you'll be on the board, so you get to make that decision along with the other 4, whoever they are. Oh, Steve will be on the board as well. But your board, as you know, Cheryl was here, Kathy Nisi was on before. I don't know if she's still on, and your Anne Marie and others. You know, you guys were proactive, said, let's get C building done. And for the most part, I think C is largely done. I think there was maybe one holdout or something along that line, but as Dana did her study, she found that there were, maybe you've got in the stack of 6 units, because it really doesn't affect the first floor, but on the stack of 6, you might have 4 of them that have already done that work. So if you got one person that hasn't done the vertical or lateral repairs, then of course everyone in that stack could be affected, or those below that person could be affected. So there's logic in trying to push that agenda along. Enough said about that. Those are the only 2 things that Steve and I thought should go into the projected reserve budget. And again, they're just kind of in a placeholder anticipation. Good questions. Anybody else? Anybody else? The board have any concluding comments? Joyce, you have any concluding comments?
I do not at this time.
Okay, Steve, you're the man of the hour. How do you want to sum it up, buddy?
Basically we're looking at small increases for everybody. I think we're in great shape financially with the proceeds and getting to the end of the project with the insurance monies that we've received. The only items left are adoption of this budget and then a vote on whether or not we do the cash carryover to balance the budget.
Would you please make proposals or motions to those effect?
Okay. Harlan, I'd like to make a motion to adopt the proposed 2026 operating budget that I sent out to the board this morning. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye. Adam first.
Adam Lashinsky, aye.
Brett Hansen, I.
Dana Carson, I.
Steve Dalton, aye.
Harlan Steuben, aye. That motion passes or carries. Steve?
Harlan, the second motion I'd like to make is that I propose that we take our not yet determined cash balance at the end of in 3 or 4 days at the end of 9/30, and then carry that amount over for our initial operating balance to start the 2026 year. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Very good. All those in favor say aye. Adam first.
Adam Lashinsky, aye.
Brett Hansen, I.
Dana Carson, I.
Steve Dalton, aye.
Harlan Steuben, aye. Motion carries. There is no other item on the agenda. Board, if you had something critically urgent right now, we can discuss it, but it's not on the agenda, so it'd be hard to take an action on it. I will say that we will have another board meeting sometime in October to kind of finalize some of the elements of this past, since the July, or I guess it's June 27th meeting. We'll have another board meeting to finalize or affirm some of the contracts that we've had and are in progress. So there will be an opportunity then for some further comments about issues. Board, do you have anything else? All right, that asks for a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Adam first.
Adam Lashinsky, aye.
Brett Hansen, I.
Dana Carson, I.
Steve Dalton, aye.
Harlan Steuben, aye. The motion passes, and the meeting is adjourned. Thank you all, everybody. Really appreciate it all. You all have a great day. Hope everything's works out well for
See
you
you at the
today.
welcome back party.
Stay happy and
Make sure
healthy.
you come to the welcome back party.
What's that?
See you all at the welcome back party.
Yes, indeed. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.